Hey everybody, this is Streamer. Today we have a nice little 9 game NBA slate, bleh, MLB slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It helps the channel out. Really do appreciate it. So first of all, we're going to look at the weather here. We do have some concerns on this slate. The Cincinnati Atlanta game does have a concern, and then the Philadelphia Minnesota game has a pretty big concern there. I do think both games end up playing, but I think that there's still some risk in those. But all the other games do look fine on this slate, so just keep those two games in mind. Uh, as far as this slate goes, this is kind of a rough slate because there's a lot of pitchers that project decently well, but the teams also project pretty well. So I think it's going to be a very high risk, high reward type slate. So I'm playing light today. With that said, we don't have a lot of pitchers that are going to be kind of sneaky on this one, which is unfortunate. But we only have a few pitchers that really project well for GPP plays. Didn't have any core plays in the pitching. And then we have a lot of kind of extreme GPP options at pitchers because they have good metrics but rough matchups, and then but with some upside as well. We also have a game in Colorado between Boston and Colorado, so keep that in mind. So that can definitely play into the slate as well. That's definitely a game that you could potentially stack up on some. With that said, let's go ahead and get into our pitchers here. So we have four decent plays, I think the best plays. First being Cole Reagans for Kansas City. Now he has a tough-ish matchup against Arizona, but he's been pitching pretty well for the most part, and he's got a really good strikeout rate for the slate, one of the better ones on the slate, and that gives him a lot of upside. So I do think he's probably the safest play on this one, as even though he doesn't have a perfect matchup, it's a decent enough one, and he's been pretty solid at home or on the road this season. So I do like him here. Lopez for Atlanta has been a little bit riskier. He hasn't given up a lot of earned runs this season, but he's had some rougher games lately as his K rate has been a little bit inconsistent. He does draw good matchup metrics here against Cincinnati, but there's a couple players on Cincinnati I do like, and so he's definitely a contrarian play, but a GPP play on the slate. We also like Bryce Miller for Seattle against the Angels. Now, this is more benefit to the fact that he's got a easier matchup on the slate, and the Angels do not project well. In fact, they are projected the worst run total on the slate. That said, his K rate is a little bit suspect, but he should have some decent ownership, so he's definitely worth a look on this one. He also had a good game against the Angels before the season. The next guy we'll look at is Spencer Arrighetti. Now, he's not a guy I typically like to utilize, but he does have some good metrics for this particular game against Oakland. He's a high risk, high reward play as he has a okay K rate, but it's been a little bit better recently than it did early in the season. I do think he does have. I do think he has some upside, though he could give up an earned run or two in this one, so do keep that in mind. As for the extreme GPP plays, we have Ranger Suarez, Tanner Hoke, Bailey Over, Hunter Green, Michael Lorenzen, Blake Snell, Eric Fetty, and Tobias Myers. And then we have two Hail Mary plays in Yebler Diaz for Arizona and River Ryan for the Dodgers. It'll be his first start this season in the major leagues. So I just want to note on that. He does have a good, he's done good in the minors, and so I think he has some good potential here to be decent. So that said, it's definitely a high risk, high reward play there. With that said, let's go ahead and get into our bats here. So we'll start at catcher. And at catcher, we actually have some value right off the front here with Connor Wong for Boston and Colorado. Now, he does have good hitting metrics today. He's not got the best home run upside, but being in Colorado definitely ups you a little bit, and he definitely has some good potential on the slate to be a solid play. But Ryan Jeffers is a good contrarian play off of him for Minnesota against Philly, as he does have home run metrics today. Will Smith would be the top overall play, though he's fairly expensive and probably hard to roster, and he's been somewhat inconsistent lately. The top ownership here are Connor Wong, William Contreras, Mitch Garver, and Yanir Diaz. Looking at first base, we do like Romy Gonzalez a lot. Now, he can play at first or shortstop, but he does fit better at first. He's not a huge home run threat, but he's got good hitting metrics for this game. And even though he doesn't play a lot of games, he's inconsistent when it comes to being a starter. He does draw good metrics today, so he's definitely worth a look, even as a good contrarian option and kind of sneaky as well, though his ownership is going to be rather high on the slate. Bryce Harper for Philly is also in play, though he is extremely expensive. He has home run upside, and he yeah, he looks really good today. Matt Olson is a little bit cheaper than Harper, and he definitely has good metrics as well. Though he has struggled this season so far, and he doesn't look all that great today outside of the metrics. Looking at Pasquantino for Kansas City, he's a little bit safer than Matt Olson and virtually the same price point. Though he has struggled a few games, so I don't think he's a must play, but he definitely has some potential on the slate. Then we have two value plays here, and Lamont Wade Jr. For San Francisco against the Dodgers. He has some really good metrics here. Not a home run threat, but a good multi-hit game potential. And then Nathaniel Lowe for Texas. He's even cheaper here, and he's been hitting the ball decently the last few games, and he does have good home run upside today, so he's definitely worth a look. This position is pretty deep. The top ownership here: Otani, Romy, Gonzalez, Nate Lowe, Freddie Freeman, and Rice Hoskins. Looking at second base, we do like Marcus Semien here a lot. He was very close to being a core play as well, but I don't, like to have too many guys core plays. But he looks really solid today. He's not quite as safe looking as Corey Seager, but this position is a little bit weaker, so he definitely draws some good metrics here. Ketel Marte is jumping off the page with a really high home run potential today. Though he is high risk, high reward because of the matchup here, but he could be a one-off home run for Arizona. Thairo Estrada for San Francisco is an interesting play today. Even though San Francisco is kind of in a weird place here against a rookie pitcher, he's going to have some potential here for a good game, though he has struggled this season off and on. And then for a real nice and cheap play at $3,100, Dubon here has really good upside on this slate. He's hitting the ball pretty well lately, and he does draw good potential here if he draws a start. So at $3,100, he's a nice value play, and I definitely think he's got some potential today. Looking at the third baseman, we do like Rafael Devers a lot today. He does draw absolutely phenomenal metrics on the slate, but he definitely has high risk, high reward because of his price. Austin Riley is quite a bit cheaper than him. He hasn't hit the ball quite as well this season, but he is hitting some home runs lately, and he does draw that good upside today as well, so he's definitely worth a look. Ryan McMahon's a little bit cheaper for the Rockies. He's got a lot of potential being this game's at home for him. He has not been getting home runs lately, though, but he is hitting the ball a lot, and he is scoring fantasy points. He's getting walked a ton, which is probably smart for some teams because he's the most dangerous player on their team right now, but they got some other guys that have been hitting decently well all of a sudden too. So, and then Chris Morel is kind of a good value play here for the Cubs. The Cubs are not a team I really like too much today, and he is a very robust play, but he's been fantastic against Milwaukee this season, and he's got some good matchup metrics here, so he's definitely worth a look. Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers, Adam Frazier, Austin Riley, Chris Taylor, and Dylan Moore are all going to be owned pretty well on the slate. Looking at shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. Is expensive, but he does draw that home run upside today as he's been hitting the ball extremely well lately. Corey Seager is a nice cheaper play here at shortstop, and I mean cheap as for this position, at least $5,000. He's been fantastic this season, and he does draw absolutely meteoric home run upside today. He'd probably be my favorite play for when it comes to just a pure home run threat. Romy Gonzalez can also play here if you want to be cheaper at this position. And then Ella De La Cruz, who does have absolutely phenomenal metrics against Lopez today, is definitely worth a look here. He's been hitting the ball very well and has that stolen base upside. And then Rafaela for Boston. He's a good contrarian play at this position, and I do like him a lot. Looking at the ownership, Corey Seager, Romy Gonzalez, Willy Adames, Ezekiel Tovar. Tovar has actually been smashing the ball for Colorado recently. Pena, J.P. Crawford, and Cedany Rafaela as well. So I think this is going to be a pretty deep position today. Looking in the outfielders, Tyler O'Neill, Kyle Schwarber, Jaron Duran, and Marcel Ozuna are the top four over $5,000 plays on the slate. They all have really good metrics here. I think O'Neill is my favorite play of the four, but I think Ozuna has been absolutely phenomenal lately, so he's definitely worth a look as well. Looking at the mid-price plays, we'll look at Rob Refsnyder. Now, he is day-to-day because he had a sore shoulder the other day, but I look for him to bounce back and play today against Colorado, and he's going to have some really good metrics for this game. Despite the fact he's not a huge home run threat, he does have occasional games where the metrics do line up, and right today is one of them, so he's definitely worth a look. He's a good hitter, too. So Garcia He was also very close to being a core play for me for Texas, as he does have the home run upside today, and he's nicely priced for this matchup. Even though he's struggled lately, he's definitely worth a look. Sedani Rafala can also play here at this position, and then Toscar Hernandez for the Dodgers. Good contrarian play. He's got a lot of home run metrics. He's been hitting the ball very well for power this season, so I do like him a lot. Four other players to look at. Sorry, five other players to look at: Byron Buxton, Eli Jimenez, Michael Conforto, Jake Fraley, and Jake Cave. Looking at the ownership: Alvarez, O'Neill, Otani, Rob Refsnyder, Adam Frazier, and Victor Robles. Jorge Soler, Dylan Moore, Andrew Benintendi, Jaron Duran, Sal Frelick, Jake Myers, and Sedena Rafali. So overall, this slate is going to be kind of rough. I don't like it from a fantasy perspective very much. It's definitely a slate that I'm going to be playing